I started writing music when I was in my late teens, and I always wanted to record an album. That was my goal. If you're totally focused on the kill, I can't even imagine how many days I would be disappointed with my life. You're looking at Instagram, you're looking at the magazines, you're looking at online, and you're getting very unreal expectations of what you're going to experience. It's got this mystique that everybody's like, oh my God, you did an album, or you're going to do an album. That's so like, that only certain people can do that. And that's just never the way I looked at it. That's actually where the internet's going now, in my opinion, is people are kind of bored with perfect. They're bored with it because it doesn't exist. It's sort of like if you want to be a fighter, if you want to get into MMA, what's the best way to do that? Well, you probably got to go start rolling on the mat. People can only tell you so much about it. This is Dave Brinker, and you're listening to Living Country in the City.
Y'all ready for your dose of flyover state spirit? Straight from the concrete jungle? Well, put down your latte and pull on your boots. It's time for Living Country in the City.
All right, so here we are at the Western Hunting and Conservation Expo. We are stealing Brian Call's very comfy chairs right now. I figure this now has to be my regular thing. At least once every expo, I need to steal Brian's thunder a little bit.
Yeah, I mean,
as much as I can do that.
You got to keep him humble.
But before we get started, just want to say a quick thank you to Sawyer Products for the continued support of the podcast. They have been great supporters of this podcast for well over a year now. Check them out at Sawyer.com for that essential gear that kind of keeps you in the outdoors for longer. Water filtration, insect repellent, the stuff that makes your life a little less miserable.
Yeah.
Check them out, Sawyer.com. But we are here hanging out in the Mountain Ops booth, co-opting Brian's stuff. I am here with Mr. David Brinker. David.
Whatever feels good.
This has been what, about a year in the making? I'd say we chatted a little bit
at least a year.
Yeah, I can't remember if we chatted before I ran into you, because I know we met officially in the Sitka booth after Hunt Expo last year.
Yeah,
and then I couldn't remember if we had talked before that about getting you on, but
I'm not sure.
We talked. I know we talked.
I think you might have reached out to me on Instagram.
Yeah. But so it's been a time in the making. I'm glad we finally got it together, and
I'm happy.
Things have changed a little bit for you.
Yeah.
But let's start out a little bit, just your background. And funny enough, with this podcast, I'm coming back a little bit to the roots of how I started it. You know, some people know this wasn't initially intended to be just a hunting podcast.
Yeah.
It was about everything country. And, my first episode was interviewing some country music artists. And so I thought it would be a fun throwback. You're kind of the encompassing both worlds of this. So
I am.
But just to get started, maybe give a little bit of background about yourself. How did you maybe initially get into the outdoors and hunting? And then we can maybe talk about how you got into, playing and writing music.
For sure. I mean, I grew up, my dad was carrying me around hunting when I was an infant. My grandfather moved out west in the 50s for the hunting and fishing. Left his entire family, a huge family in Pennsylvania, and moved his three or four kids at the time to Oregon, where I grew up. And so it was just part of my family. It's just what we did. I was kind of taught that school's great, but I can learn more out in the woods with my dad than anywhere. So, I missed a lot of school growing up. My dad was a rifle hunter for a long time, but then he switched over all the way to traditional bow hunting. So I kind of grew up traditional bow hunting in Oregon. Focused around elk, but obviously you hunt whatever you can get a tag for. And then as time went on, I started hunting out of state and stuff. And, I was actually a golf pro out of high school.
Okay.
Which a lot of people don't know. I was just naturally pretty good at golf. It never was really my passion, but my dad also owned a little golf course growing up, so I played a lot of golf.
Okay.
And just didn't really like the industry. And at the same time, I was getting my business degree, and I met Jason Hairston, and who at the time was starting what was called Sitka Gear. And, him and Jonathan Hart hired me when I was in college in 2007. And that kind of launched me in the hunting industry. I was pretty in tune with the traditional hunting crowd, but that kind of opened my eyes to the entire industry, and I grew up at that brand. I spent 11 and a half years there. I did everything from, I started out as a pretty much an intern. And I was the marketing director for 4.5 years. I ran the marketing side of the big game category for about 4 years after that. And I had a long life there. And this last June, I decided to move on and kind of take the family back to Oregon and get the kids around the grandparents and stuff. So in parallel to all that, I started writing music when I was in my late teens, early 20s. And I always wanted to record an album. That was my goal. Mostly focused on the songwriting side. I never was really that big on the performing side. And when I set a goal, I try to achieve it. And it took me, 15 years. But last year I recorded an album in Nashville and launched it. And so I get to kind of have, I play music. I hunt a lot everywhere. I play music, and I don't know. I just kind of do a bunch of random stuff.
I mean, that's the dream right there, isn't it? Like, you got both your passions. You're working at them. We're here at the expo, and just earlier today, you were playing for the whole crowd here.
Yeah.
A couple of songs. So tell us a little bit about the album. Was it this last November that you released it, you said?
Yeah, well, I recorded it in November of 17 and released it in January of 18.
Okay. Man, so it has been a while because
It's been a year.
Yeah, because we definitely
started talking. I released the whole album in April of 18, so it's been a little bit less than a year.
Because I think we definitely started talking before you recorded the album.
Yep.
So it's been, I think, even longer than we think. But
yeah.
So tell me a little bit about the album.
Yeah, I remember driving down the road between Albany, Oregon, and Corvallis, Oregon, with my, at the time, girlfriend. And we were listening to a Dierks Bentley album.
Okay.
Modern Day Drifter was the album. Came out in like 2006 or something. And I go, I want to write an album like that. And, when you say that to people, they're like, yeah, you for sure should do that, little guy.
Totally.
Good luck. You'll do great. They don't really, it's weird. Music's a weird thing. People, it's almost like magic. People don't look at it as something that's, it's like held to another level for some reason of it's got this mystique that everybody's like, oh my God, you did an album or you're going to do an album. That's so like that only certain people can do that.
Yeah.
And that's just never the way I looked at it. I was raised, my dad hammered into my head, I can literally do anything. Probably to the point where I'm pretty ignorant to actual reality. And so I'm like, well, why not? All you got to do is write the songs, save up the money, and then pay the people to record it.
There you go.
That's all. I mean, really, that's all you got to do. So I found out pretty quick that songwriting's not easy. Writing something that's never been written before, that rhymes, that has a hook that's memorable, and a melody that's never been written before, and all those things under 3 minutes and 30 seconds is pretty hard. But I kind of immersed myself in that crowd, and I did a lot of competitions where I got critiqued a lot.
Mm-hmm.
I tried to spend time around people that were way better at it than me, that could show me. I wrote a lot of really crappy songs, which everybody does. I still do. And any artist, that's just the way it goes. You got to write really bad stuff to get the good stuff. And eventually I got to the point where I had a pretty good group of songs where I felt comfortable spending the money. However, there was a problem.
Yeah.
I didn't have the money. It cost a lot of money to record an album in Nashville. So I decided, I'll run a Kickstarter and see if people will support me. I had a good group of friends that said I should do it. And so I did it. And, a month later I had raised $30,000.
Well, and, you were at the time fairly well-known guy among the hunting industry.
Yeah.
A lot of people wanted to see you succeed in that. And so the timing worked well, it wouldn't.
It did. And the hunting industry is obviously where I've grown up. It's my home, So anyways, with all the support, I was able to record the album, and here we are. I'm planning my second one right now.
That's exciting, man. So what's the name of the album?
Made Out West.
Made Out West. And everybody can grab it
everywhere.
Spotify,
Pandora, iTunes, everywhere that you listen
Amazon.
to music. Anywhere. Yep.
Can you still buy hard copies of albums these days?
You can. I don't sell them online. I have them physically when I play shows, but most people don't have CD players.
That's the one thing when I realized, the day I realized my laptop didn't have a CD player, like I went to pull out some old software or like pull some old photos off a DVD or CD I burned, I'm like, well, crap.
Yeah.
Yeah, most new cars don't have them either. It's kind of a weird thing. People, I guess, just don't really buy them anymore. It's all,
No.
especially, well, I remember when my first when they first came out with like the first MP3 players, and I wanted one so bad.
Oh,
My
yeah.
folks, the whole time were telling me, they're like, nah, it's just bad. You don't want one of those. It's just kind of a gimmicky thing. Nobody will, just get another Discman.
Yeah. A Discman.
I was at Best Buy and I saw they're selling them still.
No way.
No, dead serious. I wonder if hopefully they're actually skip proof for once, but
That's crazy. I didn't think anybody would need one of those anymore.
they were still hanging there. I was like, there's no way they're still selling these.
That's
and
crazy.
they looked exactly the same with the big old like flat headphones that you could wear, but anyway. So this time growing up through hunting, I try and I feel like there's a lot of parallels as you were talking just about recording an album. There's a lot of parallels to being successful in hunting as well. You look at the steps, you're like, oh, it should be simple,
That's because I believe hunting is totally a creative endeavor.
Oh, yeah.
Because there's no roadmap to success necessarily, like literally in the literal sense, where
Yeah.
how when you get out of the truck, you're going to go from point A to point B and be, da-da-da-da-da. You have to get out of the truck or get out of your tent and totally create your success in circumstances that are way out of your control and the odds that are stacked against you. Life's like that, especially entrepreneurial life.
Yeah.
You got to get up in the morning. I'm self-employed now, so I for sure am getting a dose of this now. You're not guaranteed to get paid. You got to get up in the morning and figure out how to get paid.
Mm-hmm.
So it is a lot like hunting. No one's going to hand it to you. I mean, yeah, there are some things you can do, but for the most part, no one's going to hand it to you. You got to get up, figure it out, work it, and over time and over a bunch of failure, you'll feel a little success. And that's the way it is.
But and you look at that success, there's no guarantee. That's no guarantee of future success. You
No.
may take those learnings, whether it's from recording an album or going on a successful hunt. You may take those learnings and like little bits and pieces and be able to apply those to the next time. But there's no guarantee that you release an album that anyone's gonna like the songs. Like there's
You
no
got to be totally
guarantees.
okay with. See, when I was recording the album, my goal wasn't to sell a lot of them, because that would be a fairly unreasonable goal.
Yeah.
My goal was to make the album. That was the goal I set. I want to record an album of my own songs. And so I was never too hung up on I'm not trying to make my living doing that at the time or now. I do it because I love it. And I think if you can do that, you'll always be happy. Hunting's the same way, especially traditional bow hunting or bow hunting in general. You got to be okay failing.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you're not, you're going to hate it 90% of the time, because most of the time is failure. And then you like crave the one time a season that comes together.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So I guess people like us are just kind of wired that way. You like that.
Well, and it's
Otherwise you would do something that's easier.
Yeah, it's something I talk about all the time. Because, like I said, my passion is for bringing people into hunting and reaching out to new hunters like me who, may not have that experience and background. And I talk all the time about setting realistic expectations. You obviously want to challenge yourself. You want to put yourself out there and try and, go beyond your limits, because you'll never know what they are until you push past them. And but you can't. Your measure of success has to be something realistic. And like you're saying with the album, your goal was to release the album. For me, when I went on my Arizona elk hunt, my goal was to put an actual stock on an animal, like a legitimate stock where I get into the point where I think I can draw. Whether or not it's successful, whether or not I connect with the animal, that was my goal. And that is such a crucial part of hunting, because then when you do that, you're successful. Everything else just is icing on the cake.
That's right.
I mean, don't get me wrong, who likes to eat a cake without icing? But
Yeah, but if you're totally focused on the kill, I can't even imagine how many days I would be disappointed with my life.
Yeah.
I mean, most of them. I mean, even last year I had a really successful hunting season. I killed 2 bull elk with my bow, an antelope with my bow, a bear with my bow.
And are you full trad now? Or are you mixing
so I
it
was
up?
full trad my whole life. I shoot a compound as well now.
Okay.
Yeah, last year was all compound, actually.
Gotcha. Okay. I was like, damn.
Yeah. I've
for a
had
trad bow, that's pretty dang
I've
successful.
had seasons like that with my trad bow, but they're pretty few and far between.
Gotcha.
But even then, people are like, "Oh my gosh, you had a really successful season," and I did. And I'm like, I did, and you know what? I don't feel bad about it at all. I'll take them when they come because I've had a lot of really crappy ones.
Yep.
And so it's just this weird thing is like I don't base it on that, but when it does happen, it's nice.
Oh, yeah.
You know, it makes up for a lot of days where you just came back to the tent banging your head up against the wall.
Oh, yeah. I mean, you have to have a passion for the whole thing so you can set those smaller goals and really enjoy the whole process and the whole experience. I can't say it enough. I probably said that on every single podcast I've recorded is you've got to focus on that experience and really take what you can get when you can get it. Find the positive in every single hunt and find something to learn out of every single hunt. I mean,
I never run out of failures to learn from in hunting. So,
well, and I was just talking with Luke Cadillo from Gladiators Unleashed, and we spent a lot of time talking about people need to realize that failures, are going to happen and they're a thing. It's so much pressure, especially like with hunting TV and stuff like that. People don't want to show their failures. They want to show the cool kill shots and always be successful. And when that's what they're focused on, instead of being real, they start making poor decisions and unethical decisions because it's all about getting that kill. More people, I feel like, need to show their failures. It's better.
I'll never forget, I hunted on Randy Newberg's show a few years ago.
So funny enough, I threw on Fresh Tracks on Amazon Prime as I was packing to come out here, and I just watched that episode literally like 3 days ago.
So, for those that don't know what we're talking about, I missed the bull at 12 yards on Randy Newberg's YouTube channel. You can probably find it. It was in Montana.
Yep.
And it was really embarrassing. And there's no excuse for it. And right after I let the arrow go, I like, man, I'm never going to live that down.
Yeah.
Because the camera guy's like right over my shoulder. And people still, to this day, come up to me and be like, wait a minute, you're the guy that missed the bull at 12 yards. So, but as much as I was depressed about it for like a day, then I'm like, I don't really care because anybody who tries to bash that, they know what's in their closet.
Uh-huh.
Like, they've all missed. Everybody has. And those that say they haven't, come on. You will, or you have.
Oh, yeah.
That's fine. But anyways, I'm totally with you. And especially in a day and age of Instagram and Facebook and like these platforms where your whole life's a highlight reel, we're all guilty of it. You're scared to post real things.
Mm-hmm.
My wife and I talk about this all the time because some of the people we're attracted to most on Instagram, where we both like following them,
Yeah.
they're the ones that aren't scared to post about changing diapers and stuff.
Yeah.
Not literally, but you know what I'm saying. Well, actually hers are because she follows a lot of moms. But like, just an analogy, right?
Yeah.
Like, show me something real. Show me that you're a flawed human being just like me, And that's actually where the internet's going now, in my opinion, is people are kind of bored with perfect. They're bored with it because it doesn't exist. And we can all pretend it does, but it doesn't. So I believe if the more misses that you can, the more failures you can show, the more that actually uplifts people because they're like, man, I was so scared to even talk about my miss on a bull last year, but now I know that, Randy Newberg does it or whoever.
Yeah.
They feel better about themselves.
Well, and it makes the victories a bigger deal too, where if somebody understands how much work you put in, if you're only showing your successes, somebody's looking at you being like, oh, that guy just gets it done. Like, it's no big deal for him. When in reality, you are busting your working hard. You're just as bummed out by those failures as anyone, and you're encountering them. So when people are part of that whole journey, see those failures, and then have that victory, it's a bigger deal. It's a bigger deal for you. They understand how much of a victory that is
Yeah.
for you, and they're more invested in it. They're more excited for you, and they can relate to that whole process.
Yep. That's
So,
right. Be relatable.
It's a difficult thing for some people. But
No, it's hard because people don't want to be vulnerable.
there's a lot of pride you have to swallow. Like,
Yeah.
I've swallowed a lot of pride on my Instagram.
Yeah.
Anybody that follows me, like,
Even the other day, I posted something that was fairly, provocative. It was about how we all have friends that want to see us fail. And I wasn't talking about any specific one of my friends.
yeah,
I was talking about how deep down as humans, we actually find enjoyment in watching people fail, which is
Schadenfreude.
really weird.
Yeah, it's a weird thing.
And it's not good, but we all struggle with it.
Yeah,
But my point is I've, obviously with the way I live my life, I take a lot of risks. I do things that people don't think you should or you can do. And with that comes scrutiny, where people are I think deep down, they want to see it not work because it helps them feel better about their situation.
yeah,
And I'm just trying to communicate to people that that's coming, that exists, and actually we're all guilty of it. But because of that, you should also be liberated from it and know that it's just a natural thing, and don't let it stop you. But I feel like that's what stops most people from doing things that are real, is because they're afraid what other people think,
yeah.
and they're afraid that by doing this they're exposing something that they're not sure about. They're going to make themselves vulnerable, and then if it doesn't work out, or if they're wrong or they offend somebody, that's really hard to swallow. But what I'm learning is it's actually not that hard. And actually what you'll find is when you're real, there's more people that support it than don't.
Oh yeah.
Because everybody wants – it's like – do you remember in class when you had a question and you really wanted to raise your hand but you were so sure that it was a stupid question? That's almost how it is. But then somebody else will ask your question, and then everybody raises their hand.
Yep.
Because now they're comfortable. They don't feel like they're dumb.
Yeah.
We're all just living in a big classroom.
Well, and honestly, if you have the question, there's probably 100 people out
That's
there.
right.
And
Or if you have a problem you're going through, guaranteed somebody else is going through a similar thing.
Yeah.
It may not be exactly the same, and some people certainly have it better off than others and all those things, but everybody's got problems.
yep. And that's, I've said it before. That's why I like to come out and do this podcast. Is I like, to swallow a little bit of extra pride and ask those questions that we as guys we're just saying we get a little chesty. We definitely have a prideful side to us and don't want to ask a lot of these questions. And when it comes to something like hunting, especially, or being in the outdoors, there's a lot that needs to be learned and a lot that you can't just learn on your own.
Yeah.
And so, if by asking a quote-unquote dumb question, I can maybe help someone, they're going to have to figure out their pride issues on their own, but maybe if I can help someone, not make a mistake and be successful just by asking that question so they don't have to swallow their pride and ask it, then that makes me happy. And maybe they'll realize, okay, so it's not so bad asking those simple questions. But
It's almost like I'm full of analogies, by the way.
I'm down.
I hate cold water. I hate it. I hate diving into cold water. But once you do it, you're like, that was nice. And you hear people when they dive into lakes, they always come up and they're like, dude, that felt so good.
Yep.
But when you're standing there staring at it, you're like, impact's coming. It's going to suck for like a half a second.
Yeah.
But it completely stops you from doing it. And a lot of the things we're talking about are like that. Actually, it's probably not that bad.
Yeah.
But you're so scared of the initial impact that it stops you from doing it. So it's an interesting lesson in human psychology.
So, in all this time hunting and releasing music, we talked about some of the lessons, but maybe what's some of the stuff, whether it's, like I said, either about releasing music or about hunting, that you would tell yourself now, that you now would have loved to have told yourself when you were first figuring this out, first starting out on things.
On hunting specifically?
Hunting or music, or both.
I wish I would have spent more time proactively educating myself when I was younger. I mean, I was guiding by the time I was 7 years old, 10 years old. A lot of people are going to say, bull. That's a true story. In Oregon, and when I say guiding, I was like, my dad was a guide, so I was going along with him and spotting elk and helping people. I wasn't getting paid, obviously, but I was a guide. So I thought growing up, geez. Sorry, folks. We had somebody fall down next to us.
Almost die hanging from a bar.
I wish I'd been more open-minded to further my knowledge beyond what I was just learning on the job, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Because as I've gotten older, there's so many people out there that have spent their lifetime learning a skill that you don't have time to learn it at the depth they do.
Yeah.
But you can go grab the knowledge they've gleaned, like the highlight reel, and learn it, and it'll help you. I became such a better hunter, an exponentially better hunter over the last 5 years, because I seek people that are better than me, and I try to spend time around them and learn as much as I can from them. And I spent a long time thinking I was the you know, and you're not. The reality, there's always somebody better. There's always something you can learn. And now I just crave it. I crave learning new things. I mean, I definitely have things that I do that I don't want to change. But every year I try to like sort of reflect and be like, what do I need to – okay, I need to spend more time around Corey Jacobson this year. I
think that's just a general rule for life.
Yeah.
At all, is just spend more time with Corey Jacobson.
Yeah. I need to improve my calling. Or, hey, I need to go spend a couple weeks with Joel Turner and really work on my shooting. Especially with the internet and Instagram now, like you can learn so much. And I just don't think I spent enough time in my early 20s doing that because you're so caught up in yourself.
Oh, yeah.
And you're really not that good.
It's funny you say that because I come from such a the opposite end of the spectrum. Whereas you were raised in it, and you just picked up what you picked up by going out and doing, and then the like call it like I don't want to say like intellectual aspect of it, but like the book learning aspect or studying aspect of it was kind of secondary for you. Versus me, I have no background in it. I didn't have as many opportunities to get out as some people just when I was living in LA. And so I came up, like, my growth into hunting was me doing nothing but, like, reading books and, like, figuring this stuff out and talking to cool people on the podcast. And I didn't have that practical experience, which I think both are very necessary. Different people learn in different ways and different your time in the field. Nothing's going to replace your time in the field, but that time in the field can be significantly more efficient when you've watched a few videos, read a few books, learned a few things prior.
Absolutely. I mean, isn't that life, There's always something. There's always a way you can learn something every day. And I think maybe as we get older, you realize that more.
Oh, yeah.
Like I definitely thought I knew everything when in my 20s.
Well, I mean, I don't understand how I ever looked at something like going to college as work or difficult for one. Now I'm like sitting here, I'm like, man, I wish I'd spent more time in like taking like classes and expanding my knowledge base. And I'm like, I wonder if I could like get a master's in something. I'm like, because I totally have time to do that.
Yeah.
But I think about that. I'm like, I miss learning.
Yeah.
And it was such a chore back then. Like
it is. Isn't that weird? Life's backwards. You should be able to retire when you're young.
Exactly.
And like seek knowledge and all that stuff. And
well, what's that? Everyone says youth is wasted on the young.
That's true. It's true.
Jeez. Now I want to go to bed at 9 o'clock. Back on
man,
my
that's
parents.
late. I go to bed at 8:30.
That's when I start getting ready for bed because I know it. I know it's going to take me an hour to actually like.
In fact, I haven't got my
distracted
afternoon
by
nap
things.
in yet.
I've wanted an afternoon nap since about 9 o'clock this morning.
Dude, I have too. I love a good nap.
I'm believe it or not, I'm an introvert, and I'm an extroverted introvert.
Yeah.
I love being around people. I love this kind of stuff and talking with people.
Yeah.
But I need to then like at the end of the night.
Oh yeah.
Be like,
no, I'll go stare
okay,
at my hotel room wall.
I gotta go and like be on my own, recenter, recharge, and then come out. So these expos are awesome.
Yeah.
But they are about as exhausting as they come. And
mentally, it's a mental marathon. That's for sure.
But so one thing, I always like to do is kind of, because this is geared at new hunters, people coming into the outdoors for the first time, maybe also from non-traditional backgrounds, say, somebody came up to you here at the expo and was like, hey, man, I want you to miss that elk on Randy Newberg's show. Sorry.
Let's bring that up again.
But, say somebody, whether it was followed you on Instagram, saw something that was like, man, that looks really cool, but I can't do that. Like, I don't have a background in hunting like you do. I'm from Los Angeles, or, I'm from New York, or whatever it is. I'm not from a hunting background, but it looks really cool. What, maybe possible words of encouragement or advice would you give someone like that?
Don't get discouraged. The barriers to entry are fairly high. I mean, it's pretty easy to go buy a tag and buy a bow and practice and all that stuff. Speaking more to it's an acquired skill that, I've been hunting since I was an infant. And still every year I'm like, how am I such a blibbering idiot that I would have made that mistake? I missed a bull last year. I'm still every night laying in bed. I'm like, ugh. I rushed the shot under it, and I'm like, how do I still make stupid mistakes like that? How? I've been doing this for 35 years.
Oh, yeah.
You would think that I've weeded out a lot of stuff, but I still make some pretty bad mistakes. So my point is if you're a beginner, the problem with you right now is that you're looking at Instagram, you're looking at the magazines, you're looking at online, and you're getting very unreal expectations of what you're going to experience.
Well, we wonder why we can't bring any new people into hunting, and then we basically tell them that you have to do all these things, or we don't tell them that in so many words, but we show them, you have to be at this certain level and have this certain stuff to get in there. Yeah. We're like, well, why aren't we getting any new hunters anymore?
Yeah, I think that's the thing, man. It's just, it is a very frustrating thing, and you're more than likely not going to experience what you're watching online because, remember, everybody's just posting a highlight reel. You're not seeing 99% of the experience that they're having. Mm-hmm. It's really hard. With that said, if you have that mindset, it can be really rewarding. Really rewarding. However, if you go into it with unrealistic expectations, it's going to be really frustrating. That's not to say that, gosh, I know a lot of beginning hunters that go out and actually are more successful than a lot of seasoned hunters because they're not overthinking it.
Yeah.
But I would just seek knowledge. Seek people that know what they're doing. Hunters tend to be kind of cagey. They don't like showing their spots off. It's hard to take people, frankly, because you only have so much time to get your own animals.
Yeah.
It's hard to take people, especially beginners. But the really great people will do it, and they will take time to take you. However, don't rely too much on them.
Yeah.
The best way to have people want to take you is first show that you're willing to go out by yourself. I see too many people rely on experienced people to take them, and they're not going to want to do that because they don't respect you yet. They want to see you go out and try. Just try. And then they're going to be like, you know what, I'll take you. It seems like you're really working hard at this, as opposed to.
Well, it shows a level of commitment. It shows a certain level of commitment. You don't, because like you said, the time is supremely valuable. And if somebody, if you're going to take someone out and they're just going to be like, okay, this hunting thing isn't for me, or if they're not going to put out the effort and work, then you kind of feel like you wasted your time a little bit.
Yeah.
And, not everyone, some people, that just may be the thing where they go out a few times and they realize, okay, I enjoy this, but it's not my thing. And that'll happen. But generally, it shows a level of commitment.
But it's also, there's no better way to learn.
Yeah.
So I think for me, it's it's the level of commitment, but also it's look, if you really want to learn how to do this, you literally just need to go walk through the woods.
Yep.
And just start paying attention to what's going on. Miss some stuff. Fail some things. And you'll start building your own little repertoire. You'll start figuring out your own little spots. You'll start learning what to do, what not to do. You can get a lot of the basic knowledge in a couple weeks on the internet. Get the wind right. Here's what elk habitat looks like. But then the rest, it's sort of like if you want to be a fighter, if you want to get into MMA, what's the best way to do that? Well, you probably got to start rolling on the mat. People can only tell you so much about it.
You probably got to get punched in the face once or twice.
That's right. You're going to get pinned, or submit. That's how much. I'm not an MMA fighter. You're going to get submitted. But that's the point, is try to balance it. There's a lot of people out there that rely too much on other people, and I think that's kind of, they're not going to want to take you.
Well, I think you also have to be willing to pull your own weight. Like, if you want to go out with someone, be willing to go out by yourself, but also be willing to be the person that is helping them out. Be the volunteer. I don't know a lot of hunters that would turn down an extra back to carry out an elk quarter. One less trip.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, even if you are just sticking back at camp and helping set up and cook and maybe only going out a couple of times, you are still learning. You're still getting a lot of experience, and then you're showing them, find a way to give back, show you're committed to being, part of this hunting community, and people will gravitate towards
I saw
you.
last week a lady that I met probably 5 years ago at a hunting show. She showed up. She read about hunting in a magazine. She bought a plane ticket and flew to this hunting show, and she's like, "Hi, I'm so-and-so. I'm totally new to this. I don't know a thing, but it's great to meet you, and I'm here hanging out with you."
That is so cool.
And now she's like an integral part of this community. And I saw her last week. I'm like, I still think about that. That's so cool. I mean, that shows real guts, A, but also shows like, hey, I don't know a thing, but gosh, I'm here to learn, as opposed to, could you take me and show me everything?
Yeah.
Please?
Well, that's almost kind of what I did with, I went to the ISE show last year, which I actually thought was this show. I've told that story before. I had my coworkers like, hey, you have to come to the Hunt Expo, da-da. So I just Googled up, okay, Salt Lake City hunting exposition or whatever, and it pulled up the ISE show first. That happens, I think, in a month, sometime around March, I think. And so I bought tickets, and all of a sudden I get a call from him. He's like, hey, man, you ready to go next week? And I'm like, what? You mean next month? He's like, no, dude, next week to Hunt Expo. I'm like, yeah, that's next month. And I realized there's 2 shows, but anyway. So I fly out there, and it was great for me because it wasn't nearly as busy as this is. But I got to go up to people, and it was that same kind of conversation where I'm like, hey, I'm new to this. I picked up all this stuff. I bought tags for this area. I just want to meet people and learn. And, I just started the podcast at that point, and it was kind of a country music and off-roading and shooting my bow podcast, not really a hunting podcast, but people appreciated that I just made the effort to bomb out here and learn. Randomly, I ended up in Salt Lake a lot that year. I randomly came out for when you guys when Sitka released the Subalpine Black Ovis did a launch event.
Yeah.
And I just saw that everyone was posting about it on Instagram. I'm like, I could use a weekend away. Flew out to Salt Lake City and just hung out, and everyone's like, oh, where are you coming in from? I'm like, California. You came out for this? I'm like, yeah, why not? It's a good weekend. I just want to learn from people,
Yeah.
That's what I met Brian and Aaron Snyder at the time. I had met Corey before, but I got to run into Corey and Kendall Card. Got to meet him. Just all these awesome people, and went on a hike with them, and and I think I was a little bit of an entertaining novelty to him because I was just all I wanted to do was learn, and so I took every opportunity. I put out the effort to come out, and people respond when you work your ass off and you put out that effort, regardless of how you're doing it. Whether it's you're going out on your own hunt, you're trying to work for them to help them out on their hunt, you're just coming out to expos and learning. People respond to effort. They respond to enthusiasm, engagement, and effort.
Absolutely.
3 E's. Wow, I didn't intend that.
Absolutely, no question about it. And they'll support you.
Yes.
Absolutely.
So if people, we talked about where they can find the album, pretty much anywhere. Where else can people follow along with your adventures online?
My Instagram's the best place. It's just Dave Brinker _. It's about all I have time to manage right now.
Do you have a website for the music stuff?
I do have a website. It's just davebrinker.com.
davebrinker.com.
Yep.
Awesome. I'll make sure to link to those on
Thank you.
the show notes page. We'll get that up.
Appreciate it, man.
Thanks for sitting down. I'm glad we finally made it happen.
Absolutely.
It was a fun conversation.
And we even got to steal Brian Call's chairs.
Yep, it's my favorite. This is going to become a yearly thing, I think. Brian was giving us the side eye.
I appreciate it, man. Thank you so much for having me on.
Awesome, bro.
All right, y'all, that'll do it for episode 99 of Living Country in the City. Big thank you to David for taking the time out of his day. Had a great time talking with him. Make sure y'all head on over to the show notes page at livingcountryinthecity.com/99 to get links to everything we talked about in today's episode.
But until next time, keep it country, y'all.
Thank y'all for listening to Living Country in the City. Get show notes and check out the blog, product reviews, events, and more at livingcountryinthecity.com.